Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Late Night Laravel. In today's episode, we'll create that slick looking to-do list that you saw a few seconds ago. So let's jump right in. We're starting off with our existing login system. If you want to see how we built that, you can go check out episode 1. I'll leave the link in the description below. Now for the to-do list, let's first define our routes based on what functionality we want. Let's create a route group with the prefix to-do and also the namespace to-do, since this is a to-do module. And of course, we need the middleware auth API so that we can authenticate all our routes. Okay, the first route we need is a get API to get all the list of all our to-dos. We'll call that list tasks. Second thing we need is a way to add a task. So let's call that add task. Then we need a way to edit our tasks. That'll be post, and we'll bind it with the task model that we'll create in a little while. And then of course we need a delete API to delete a task, and we'll bind that with the task model again. Okay, so let's create a new directory to hold our models. And I'm going to create a subdirectory in that called to-do, which will just be for this to-do application. Let's use the PHP artisan make command to make our model. And we'll also add the migration parameter. So as you can see, it's made a model file as well as a migration file. So let's write the migrations. We need a couple of columns, a title to hold the title of the task, a description, and we need a couple of date columns, one to hold when the task is going to be completed and another to hold when the task was actually completed. And we'll keep that nullable because they can be null in the beginning. And of course, let's also add a soft delete straight to this table. And lastly, of course, we need to associate a user ID to each task. So let's quickly define the relationship as well. We'll just call that user and we'll give it a belongs to relationship type. Next, let's create our controller. We'll just make a new subfolder inside our v1 folder. And let's use the PHP artisan command again to create a controller. And now in the tasks, we need all our functions, a listing function, an add task function, an edit task function, and a delete task function. And I think I mistyped that. Let's call that list tasks. Okay, let me quickly code all that, and I'll see you in a few seconds by the magic of video editing. So we actually missed a couple of APIs that we need. One is for marking a task complete. So we'll call that mark complete and we'll bind a task ID to it. And similarly, we need an unmark complete. Okay, so let's quickly go through what we coded just now. We coded a couple of things. The first thing is a list task function, which simply gets all the tasks for that particular user and paginates them by 15. Now, pagination is not really required in a to-do application, but it's a good practice to paginate your data so that there's not too much data coming all at one time. And this simply returns either the list of tasks or a message that says no task found. The second function is an add task function. We're validating some of the data and simply creating a new model object and saving that to the database. Similarly, for a edit task, we're validating the data that comes in, authenticating the user, and updating the task object. For the delete task API, we're simply calling the delete function on the model. So these are the two new ones we added, one for marking the completed time and the other to remove that completed time, and both of them simply return a status 200. Alright, so let's get testing. Before that, let's just run our migration command and get our table into our database. And let's check. Yes, we see a new table here called tasks with all our columns that we need. Next, let's check our routes with the route list command. And yes, all our APIs are showing up there, so that is working correctly. And finally, let's pull up Postman. I've already set up all the APIs. You can see the first 3 APIs are from our previous episode to login, and the 7 APIs we've created today. I'll start by logging in with our Jane Doe account and get the access token from there. Now we can use this access token in all our APIs. Let's try it with the get task API. And right now, of course, there are no tasks found. So let's add one task. I'll add the access key first. And let's call it my first task. Put a description in there. And we need a date in the YMD format. A time too also. And that has added our first task. So let's check it in the get list, and there we go. So let's add another one. We'll call it the second task. Just change a couple of values here. Yep, that works. Let's check it in the get task again. Yes, we see 2 tasks now. Now let's try out the edit task. We already know, we need the access token first. We already know we have an ID 2, so let's try to edit ID 2. We'll just change the title a bit, forget about the description, call it my edited task 2. And we see a 200 status, that means it's working. So let's check again. Yep, the title is edited. And now let's check our mark and unmark. We'll do the same thing here. We'll mark ID1 here. And we get a 200 again. Let's check. Yes, it has a timestamp. Let's try out the unmark API. A 200. And yep, it goes back to null. Finally, let's check the delete. Let's delete the same task ID1. We get a 200, and in the get list we see that task is missing. Now, of course, building an API based application means you're free to do whatever you want with it. This is a small example of what I thought we could do, and I put together a simple UI to just front all our API calls. And I'll leave you some footage so that you can look at how it works. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you liked, or leave a comment if you have something to add, and I'll see you in the next one.